Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. Excited for today's interview. We are talking with the owner of Henry Swarey. And what he does is he helps to improve people's businesses with strategy and leadership and finances. So excited to be rocking out here with Henry. Hey, you ready to rock?
I'm ready to rock, Tim. Hey, how's it going today? Glad to meet you.
It is going awesome. We always start off here in a good note. So tell me a story of success in your business so we can be inspired by.
Sure. Well, a story of success, maybe is followed by something that didn't go so well. I mean, I
Mm,
started as an entrepreneur. It's been over 20 years now since I started. And I went from not having enough time to be with my family to now having time to go on family vacations. I went from not having a schedule to, things are a little bit together now. Now I have a schedule and everything is on my calendar. So I feel like that's a success. Like I can take extended family vacations and so on.
wow. Yeah. That's something that probably a lot of people are looking do is, those extended vacations and not have their business fall apart, right?
Yeah, that's for me, man. I love to travel. My wife and I love to travel, and I think that's something that's important. That if you have a spouse that you're on the same note, even on the business, it's so much easier if you have someone or business partner that pulls for you instead of pulls away or doesn't even care. So
Mm.
for me, travel is a way of really getting rejuvenized. Getting my mind back. After a hectic day or hectic week, we like to go to the lake and so on.
Now, do you take your business with you at all when you go travel?
So, of course, I couldn't say no to that, of course. I mean, with our technology that we have, a business seems to follow
Mm.
us around. So I limit myself. So that's what I do is when I'm at the lake, I'm at the lake. But I do look at my phone, I do look at my tablet. I tend to go without my computer though, so I don't have extensive use of my business software and so on. So I can see what's going on. I keep a tab on it.
Yeah, so you can see what's going on. You can kind of, react to some things here and there, but you're not gonna be tempted to, sit on your laptop for a few hours, right?
No, no, I mean, family is important. Like I've found that I really have to prioritize my life. What's the most important? I think a lot of entrepreneurs they go through life and their life starts getting jammed and they're like, man, I don't have time for my marriage or I don't have time for my best
Mm.
friend or
Mhm.
like family vacation. Like I don't have time, but I don't have time. I would love to, but I don't have time.
Yeah. And so, like, was this something that you worked towards, or were you kinda, like, building it all along with that time in mind?
So I've always been working toward that delegation, I guess, process. I think one of my strengths is delegation. I
Mm.
delegate everything out, and then, but then I gotta make sure that I follow up with accountability. As far as answering your question for pressing for that time, um, I think for me, it's what's important in my life. Like when I was younger, maybe it was more the money, but it's kind of
Mm.
shifted. Like it's like we need money, but the purpose is different. It's important to have relationships with those around you. And as you build your company, you gotta have a relationship with your employees and you know how that goes, managers. And if you want to grow your company, you gotta grow your team, you gotta grow yourself and all that.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, it's sort of I'm at a point where I'm shifting right now because I'd say up until now, I didn't mind taking the business with me and not even going on vacations. I mean,
Right.
really, it's work vacations, right? And
Yeah.
now I'm sort of starting. I feel like I'm on like this this I don't know tipping point where now I'm like, okay, I think I'd be cool to be able to go and not bring my work with me, right?
Exactly.
And that's probably
Exactly.
pretty normal. Yeah, when you're younger, you're all business. And then
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for
once you hit
sure.
us, yeah, cool. So now you mentioned like because the good note and the bad note sometimes, really go together. So is there something that didn't go super well in your business that we can learn from?
Well, yeah. So, there's a lot of things, and I guess I could talk about the most recent one. I guess people always like to hear the struggles of successful people. That's for me too. I like to hear like they're like me, like they also have trouble, in their life because it seems like some people are making a lot of money, or some people have things so successful, and don't really see what's going on the backside. So, um, if I may just go back quickly, and I started on my own when I was like 21 or something like that. I was a farmer, but then I went on my own. Within 5 years, I had grown my company from zero to I didn't even get to a million yet. I mean, this was 20 years ago. And I thought, oh man, I don't like business, but I found out that my roots were in business. They came back stronger than ever. And it wasn't more than like a couple years ago. Well, back in 2017, I sold that second company. Moved to a new location. Now we're out here 500 miles away from where I knew everybody, started back up and went from zero to 3 million in 4 years. So I think it's easy to repeat ourselves what we've done. Now, to answer your question directly, there is, did I have a bad time? Exactly. So I was on a business trip out in Colorado, and I was in a meeting, and the phone starts ringing. One of the guys is calling here in the office, and I just texted back, "I can't talk right now." You know how you press that button,
Yeah.
and then he replied back, "It's very important." I says, "Okay, let me step outside. We were dismissing for a class." And so I stepped outside, and he says, "Hey, Henry, hey, so everybody's here in my company now. I have 3 sales guys. I have a single guy that's out there doing one man stuff, just our small projects. And then we have like 3 office people. Maybe we're down to 2 at that time, helping with the office work. And then we subcontract everything out. We're almost in 3 million in sales now." And they said, "So we think we're going bankrupt, and I'm quitting." And I just learned that, you know, you think you have good people in your company. When hard times come, like we were kind of going through a slim time, like a little bit tougher time. And so the jobs weren't getting done. And the project manager was blaming it on something else and not himself. And he
Mhm.
just starts talking to other people. And one of the sales guys actually took his side. He goes, "Yeah, I wonder why my jobs ain't getting done. I think," and they started talking. And when I was gone, they started going through my books. And I had told that one person I was onboarding, "Don't worry, my books aren't up to date right now because I need to reconcile my accounts and I'm behind. So, don't worry about that. It's not going to show up properly." That really scared me. I had 2 people quit that day. And so then I was on my own in the office. It was hard.
Wow. Wow, that's yeah. That must have been tough. So how did you recover from that?
So I recovered by recruiting again, and so I'm always been able to stick with it. And I recruited, and it was a year later. I fired everybody in my office. I hired a general manager, I hired a bookkeeper, and project manager. I'd set everything up again. And the second time around, didn't have the right people. It
Mm.
was, I thought they were for me, but then when I started talking budget and stuff like that, and then the general manager, it was not the right fit. And so it came to a point I had to fire him, fire the bookkeeper, and then the third one said, "Well, I'm walking out." But then I
Well,
rehired and I says, I need to look at my culture. Who do I want? Who is really like me? And when I started rehiring again, I looked at their resume and I started asking those questions. So now when I hire people, they say they're good at something or have done this, they need to show me. They need to show me. I'm gonna hold them right to it. And if they can't bring satisfaction to me, I'm not hiring them.
well, yeah. Yeah, I've heard that a few times where people will hire more for the culture than they hire for necessarily the, I don't know, resume that they show up with, because you never know. Like you say, they can falsify that resume. And also, even if they're really good at their job, they still might not get along with everybody in the office, right?
Yeah, I think culture is key. I think that's one of the things that I look for now on the first phone call. I need to know that they have actually done some research on my company. I just don't want somebody that wants a job. And two, the
Mm,
first interview, they had better have something about my company. There must be a fit on my culture. And I do ask them why they think they will fit into my company. Before I interview them, I give them a copy of my culture, uh, printout of our culture script that we have that we stand for. And they need to tell me why they would fit in. So
wow. That's clever.
that's that's huge. I'm telling you. So culture first, and then you go for skill or not. I mean, we hire will over skill, but skill is still key. If somebody has good skill, I want to see it. But if they got things on their resume, they got 70 things they have done, they're gonna be talking to me for quite a while how they do it.
Yeah. Well, and there's certain jobs that, um you can train too, as well, right? I mean, some
Exactly.
jobs, the skill needs to be pretty high, but there's a lot of stuff that, especially in your company might be done a certain way. So I have to train them anyway. Sometimes it's better to have a little bit less experience because you can at least teach them how to do it the right way rather than all these bad habits, right?
Exactly. Exactly right. And it's so hard to have sometimes I think it's the hardest to have somebody that's more senior. Let's say just say upper in their upper 50s in their age or in the 50s. I don't want to put age on anybody, but
Mhm.
it just seems like the older that we get, the more we become set in our way and the less we are
Yeah.
open to a new direction.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that can really create some friction, right? Because you get everybody doing it a different way, right?
Exactly. But I think that's the young culture's problem today. And it was mine when I was young. Like I didn't want to share my way of doing things. Therefore, I was not even open to receive like new direction. I was just like arrogant, I guess a little bit, I just didn't know what I didn't know.
Mhm, mhm. So how do you mitigate that? Like, do you have, like, some sort of process that you put them through to make sure that they are gonna align with you?
You mean for onboarding the new people then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So then we start with the culture, and then the third interview, we talk about like I asked them for a let's say a lesson. Let's say if I'm hiring for accounting, I asked them if they know how to reconcile accounts. What's important to me. Do they know Excel? Do you know how to create reports? And one of the last people that I hired, I said, okay, create a report for me. Show me how I will do the profit and loss for salespeople for all the calls. I want you to create it yourself. And he did, and I was impressed. So it's just like, show me what you can do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And people like to do that too, right? They can show what they can do.
Well, yeah, but see, here's the thing. Some people go to Google and they copy and paste. And I asked him, did you go on Google and copy it? He goes, no, I created everything from scratch. And so if he would have said, no, I copied it and I just added to it, and I'm like, I want to see what you can do.
Yeah. Right on.
Because I can
Cool. So
copy, like I can copy and paste myself.
yeah, well, and I suppose depending on the position though, sometimes being able to research and find stuff, and then add to it is a good thing too. But I do remember, even in some of my early interviews for tech stuff, what I used to be a programmer, and they would get us to do these interview questions on paper. So you couldn't like look it up. You had to actually write out the code. And it was hard because, for us, very little of it is just written out. Like we copy and paste from somewhere and put it in there and then just build upon that. But really like having like no internet around you and having to write something out from scratch it could be challenging for sure, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. For sure. Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah. So now, what about getting good at what you do? So, is there anything that you do to sort of keep you motivated and keep you sharp on the skills that you need to run your business?
Yeah, so I think I'm well rounded in a lot of areas, but then again, I don't believe in this thing of being a jack of all trades, a master of none. I think that's why people don't move forward, because they just turn into a jack and they stay there. Now, years ago, I decided I'm going to stay into the roofing industry and stay there. And there, my friends said, "Well, hey, I got some cement blocks I want you to lay up, or some concrete I want you to pour." You said you're a contractor. I says, "Nah, I've decided I'm going to stay in the roofing." He goes, "Roofing? You got enough work in roofing to stay in the roofing?" I go, "Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think I can make more money getting good at one thing and then just do it faster and better than other
Mhm.
people." And it's proven its point. It does work.
It does work, yeah. And I mean, when you get into like the marketing side of it too, like every time you go take a marketing class, it's talking about niching and figuring out exactly what you do, right? So you can't do that if you do everything, right? You got to really narrow in on being to be a specialist in something, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then like to answer your question, you say what do I do to inspire myself, or what do I do to keep myself going in one direction? And there's, a couple answers to that. First, when I started going to seminars back in 2007 and reading books, I got a book subscription, I got a new book every month. I was just so hungry for leadership. And I was like, man, I got to grow myself. I realized that if I don't grow, nobody around me can grow. If I can't
Hmm.
transform myself, I can't transform others.
Yeah. Wow. And it takes a while to get to that point, doesn't it?
It does, and I think it comes through pain because we all hit our lid, like we can't grow further than so far, or we face some pain and we want to go around it in our life. So many times I've sidestepped it and not going through the something I need to do. You know how it is when you have children. I don't know if you have young
I
ones.
do.
Okay. And then there's sometimes they do things, you should confront them about. And instead, at least this is what I've done. You take them to the window and go, oh, look at that bird. Hey, look at the horses out there. And you distract them from what they were doing, hoping they would just forget it. But you need to confront them someday, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Some of it, eh?
And then, so that's how you, with us as leaders, that we know there's things we need to go through, but we choose not to. And I think as long as we keep sidestepping it, we won't grow. And if we grow, it's in the middle of pain. Every opportunity is wrapped with pain and a
Yeah.
problem. Every problem has an opportunity.
Yeah, and when you look back too, isn't it interesting that you see that some of the problems that used to be like so tough are like now normal problems that happen every day that you just solve, right? And now your problems just keep getting bigger, but you keep getting bigger as well, right?
Yeah, and I think you must have the right attitude, and you must be able to have a good emotional bank account. Because if you get all emotional about all the pain, the problem that's going on, you get wrapped up in it, you can't take it. I tell
Mm,
people around me, I says, you will never go further beyond the point in the level of pain and stress you're able to tolerate.
mm,
And you can't let it get to your head. Like, I think that's why some people don't grow, because they just get so stressed out. They don't know how to, deal with that. Like, they're just
yeah.
like, I can't do more. I can't take it. I can't take this payroll problem. I can't take the stress of all these vendors coming after me. Or one of my friends said, I can't take it. There are people call me all the time and they want time to pay their bill. I don't want to call them. I don't want to chase them for the money. So, hey, guess it's not for him then.
No, no, it's not for him. Well, it is something that probably, I mean, I think a lot of it kind of like leads into other parts of your life as well too. Like, maybe some of the personal stresses kind of like affect your business, right?
Exactly. Sure. Well, it's like your personal life is going to feed into your business life, because that's who we are. So if we don't fix the personal side of things, the business side won't change either.
Yeah, and vice versa, right? I mean, a lot of times your business stresses come into your personal life, and then you start messing things around with your personal life too, right?
Yeah. And it can be hard to keep that separate. Like, how, people have a problem with that, especially the one man show. They're trying to do all of it themselves so that they can keep all the money or whatever it is. But then they're never home. Like, they're always home. Like he said in the beginning, hey, do you keep your work at home? Like, when you go to the beach, you take your job with you. Well, really, I don't, but I have it available. But I have people in place now that do this, and I just check on them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So now let's talk a little bit more about the about learning. So now, do you hire coaches and mentors and all that stuff? Like, how do you keep learning and growing?
Yeah, so I throw myself out there. I buy some courses, and I have a coach right now that's helped me write a 10-year plan in my company that is amazing. And it's someone that's also helping other companies grow. And so they take a deep dive into my company's financials the last 3 years. And then we reverse engineered the plan for 10 years starting last year. And it's just amazing, like the things I need to do. Like, I know I need to do it, but sometimes I just let it go. Well, to get there, you really there's certain things that we need to do in order to move to the next level. So
Oh,
that's what I do.
wow, 10 years too, Ed. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. And it's something that I don't know how to write myself, exactly. I mean, they showed me how it's done and all that. And it's just something that I don't enjoy. Like, that's not my strength. And so I have to hire that out. So I believe one of the things to help us to stay successful, or become successful, is stay in your giftedness. Like, we all have a gifting. We're good at one thing or two at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that completely. Like it's because if you start doing things that you're not gifted at or you don't like, then you bring that negative energy into that work as well, right? Which it just drains you even more.
Exactly. So if you ever do something at work and then that really stresses you out or makes you completely empty, then that's not your strength. But if it completely energizes you, you should stay there. But sometimes, as a business owner and entrepreneur, we need to hire more people, delegate more things. Before we do that, we're like working on all areas.
Yeah.
the sooner we can delegate those out, the better we can grow ourselves and grow the company by leading into the areas that we are good at.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And what would you say would be the biggest kind of, barrier to delegating? Like, what do you think would hold people back?
I think it's hard to just put my finger on that one. That's a heavy-weighted question because I look at the personalities. I also have studied that for years, and I also train that now. And if you look at the different types of personalities, you have the delegators, well, you have the doers, you have the talkers, you get the team players, and you got the
Mm,
analytical people. And some people analyze things way too much.
mm,
And so it's harder for some, but you have to delegate. You have to find something that you're not good at and delegate it to someone else in order to grow.
yeah, yeah. I hear what you're saying too, because there are people that I've never heard this before. I've seen people in my life that just delegate immediately. Like, they have no problem with it at all. They're just like, yeah, yeah, you do this, you do this, you do this, and like, wow, like they're not taking anything. Like I always kind of like was annoyed by that. Like, man, they're not doing anything on their own. But that is a massive skill. Once you get into business for yourself, and you realize that you can't do everything on your own, delegating is hard. So for those people that are able to do it just easily, right?
Right.
It's definitely a skill.
Yeah. And I think we can all learn to delegate. And then some people just don't delegate well at all. They're just not good delegators. But I
Mhm.
think that the more we learn, that we can learn all skills, and that may not be our strength, but we need to. If you're a business owner, you need to learn to delegate, or you will never scale and grow your company. It's hard to do it by yourself. How can I get to 10 million just myself? It's almost
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for all entrepreneurs, probably I would say delegating and sales would be something that all entrepreneurs need to know how to do. Is there anything else that you can think of that all entrepreneurs should know at least, be good at?
Yeah, yeah. So I think entrepreneurs are good in sales, and I
Yeah.
think that's why they're able to sell their business, or sell their company, their idea, because they're
Mhm.
good salespeople for the most part, but they're not great closers. But they're usually so I look at four parts of my company. I start with marketing, and then I go sales, and then I go service, and then financials. And so one of these four you're good at, but you can't be good at all four. But I look at companies, other people's companies, and I help them grow also. And I look at which area they're weak at and which
Mm.
areas they're strong at. And so for each entrepreneur, like, you need to know your company in the four parts and your strength in each part of them. And you need to get somebody in there where you're not good at.
Well, I love that. So then this is a perfect segue. So tell me what's exciting in your business right now for your guest solo.
What's that again? Can you say that again?
So it's time for your guest solo. So tell me what's exciting in your business. Tell me about your business.
Yeah. So my business, what we do is we have a roofing company. I've been doing roofing for almost 20 years. And the great thing going on in my company is the growth that I'm able to see, and by transforming my salespeople into great salespeople. I love seeing other people grow, learn, but to duplicate myself has not always been easy. But now with the people in place that I have, we're able to scale and grow the company to new heights that I've not seen ever in my life. And it all comes down to being able to transform yourself first, I believe, and build those relationships. Gotta have the right attitude, you know, make sure that you don't have that fear holding you back.
Right on. So how do we find out more about you then?
So you can find me on all social media. It's either Henry Swarey, Coach Henry Swarey on Facebook. So just type it in Henry Swarey, I should come up. Um, yeah, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn. You can find me all over, really, TikTok.
Awesome. What would be your target market for the people that you'd be looking for to coach?
Yeah, so I'm looking to coach business owners that want to grow and scale their company. I'm looking for people that have a business, whether you're home, you have one or two employees, whether you have a couple salespeople or a bunch of salespeople. I can help you grow and scale your company from where you are to where you want to go. And it all comes in duplicating yourself and duplicating the top people in your company. Got to
Mhm.
have great sales skills. I think one of the biggest things in a company for success is sales, and be able to close your sales.
And you can help with that.
I can absolutely help with that. I've been in sales for over 20 years, and I had to relearn a few times, just like playing golf. If you don't change your swing, you're not gonna keep going in the right direction. So as times change, people change a little bit, from 10 years ago to now for sure.
Yeah, and I do think that that is something that a lot of entrepreneurs, especially beginners, have a struggle with, right? Is either the sales itself or the closing, probably the closing, right?
What I've seen for myself, I didn't realize that there was a sales process. I didn't know what I did. So for the first, it was about 10 years before I went into sales school so I could learn how to sell, so I could have my own salesperson that could train them. I didn't realize there was like a beginning conversation and a middle and then the close. And people, I believe, get that mixed up. They try to close and they ambush the sale. And then you're like, dude, nobody wants to talk with me.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's odd too, right? Because the closing part is it's either people like jump right to it or they don't do it at all.
Yeah. And I see it with my salespeople. Sometimes, like, I'll just be honest, like, it's not easy for some people to stay in the close because it's that awkward pressure, that moment of silence. You ask for the sale, I need to shut up, zip this mouth. And if they're not taught that, they'll be going, well, but then you start losing the sale because they start making a fuss that they shouldn't even talk.
Yeah, yeah. That when really, I mean, I definitely I probably took similar sales courses to you. That when you think about it from their perspective, like last time that someone asked you for a sale, and like what goes through your mind, you start thinking. You start thinking, okay, you're kind of evaluating it. If you're interrupting them while they're thinking about this, then you're not going to make that sale. But it doesn't mean that they need more convincing. It just means that they're running through it in their head, right?
Yeah, there's like these four personalities that I was talking about before. We got people that make a decision in a very short time. We
Mhm.
got the talkers, the team players, and the analytical people. So you need to know how to close each person. You need to be able to really quick, see their personality style and to kind of know how they think. Because if you don't, then the analytical person, he will not say yes until he gets enough information. But then he
Mhm.
give the wrong guy too much information. He's like, dude, I gotta go. I have a doctor's appointment. See ya. And he's out the door.
Yeah. Oh, wow, that's awesome. Right on. So we can reach you on social media then. Have you got a website too?
Yes, henryswarey.com. Just my first and last name.com. You could email me, henryswarey@gmail.com. Pretty easy. So I'll answer to both. You can DM me through any social media. I'll see you there. Just any place, really.
Love it. This has been awesome, Henry. Thanks so much for rocking out with me today.
Welcome, and thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Great. And to the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment. We'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.